Okay guys, welcome back. Reese here, Reese's Shed, and we're having a few teething issues with our fuel system. So I've noticed with a test I did last week that we've got a little bit of a leak at the surge tank around the pumps, and we're going to have a look at that. So let's get straight into that now and see what we can come up with. So what I've actually found is it's not the O-ring that's the issue. It's the spacing of the pump down inside the surge tank. So with the original O-ring, as you can see there, when you plonk that in, there's nothing for the retaining clamp to push down on. It's not sitting up high enough to expose the ridge that's supposed to be pushed down. So what I've achieved by going up to the larger O-rings basically is double stacking the two smaller ones just to take up the space. So I'll show you that quickly. Alright, now, so you can see there with the two smaller original O-rings, we actually do have the lip on the pump is proud, so that the plate can actually push down and lock that pump into position. So I didn't want to double up O-rings, and these are cheap, so I grabbed a handful of them. Didn't know at the time if it was going to work, but clearly it has. It's a nice snug fit. This one's only got 2 bolts in. I cannot move it at all. And these before, with just the one O-ring, it was just free with all 6 mounting bolts bolted down as tight as they could go. So I'll repeat what I've done over there here. That'll be all locked in, and then we'll get our wiring and stuff back on and get it in the car. Alright, so this is all ready to go back in. We're just going to quickly connect up a more permanent wiring harness. So these are going to go to a relay on the other end. So there's going to be our power supply and our ground, and then we're going to have a switch through the relay. So I'm going to wire these up now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to wire up both my grounds, and then I'll just give one power supply. That way down the track, if I want to run a second pump, just have to basically bridge that across to there. So we'll do that quickly. We'll chuck this back up in the car. Alright, so all my hoses are all done now. Everything's plumbed up exactly the way that we want it. Taken into consideration the comments and everything, and made some adjustments, as you guys could see. We're now running the larger return hose and the smaller pressure line, which is fine because with the amount of pressure we have, we're not going to run out of fuel. We've run a really heavy duty wire, basically all the way from the pump, or 2 wires from the pump to the engine bay. And we're about to rig up the relay. So we'll get that done, put the battery back in, and we'll prime the system and make sure we don't have any leaks again. We were running it just straight off the battery before, and that was working, but it's not the safest. So this time around, I'm going to run a temporary switch in the engine bay, just to test. And then once I know everything's all good, I'll relocate that to the ignition feed, so that everything works off the key. But yeah, I want to get this all working first. So let's get this relay hooked up and see what we can come up with here. Alright, so I'm just using some trailer wiring here. It's a 5-core trailer harness, and it's budget friendly if you're needing to do long runs of wire at a reasonably heavy gauge, and it's already in a sheath, so it works well for what we're doing. I use it a lot, and I recommend it. Give it a go. Now, what we're going to do here is, because it's a 5-core, we're going to delete one, so we're not going to use the yellow. just personal preference. And what we want to do is have some way of distinguishing what's what without actually having to look at some diagram or anything. So for the smaller gauge wires, I'm going to use my red terminals, which you would anyway. Even though all these wires are the same, two of these are going to have a higher current than the other. So red for the low current and blue for the higher draw stuff. That's just so that I can look at this quickly and go, oh yeah, I know which one's which, if I ever had to diagnose it. Alright. Okay, so I've got an interesting one. These are Ford relays that I've got out of a scrapped car. And when I went to wire it up, I noticed that my pins didn't seem to line up with where they usually do. So the way that these work is usually you've got a switching over here. Two of these will be switching and two will be your power supply. So usually you'll have, see where this red terminal is, you'll have power in here and then power out over here. And you'll have ground here and switch down the bottom or whatever, but usually these two are a pair and these two are a pair. So what I've found is on these Ford relays, they're actually not. So you can see where I've wired them up, so they're side by side. They're actually on the corners as opposed to opposite each other. So that's a trick to be wary of. And the way that I actually was looking at the terminals and they're numbered 87, 86, 85 and 30. So they weren't opposing the way that they usually are. So what I did was I just took the cap off and wired it up. Well, first of all, I didn't wire it up. I had a look at where my poles go inside of the relay. And I went, oh yeah, they actually aren't where they're meant to be in a conventional style relay. So then what I did was I picked my wires that I know that I need to actually open and close the relay, which would be the two red terminals there, which are the green and white. And then I got myself a little 9-volt battery, and all I wanted to do was, you can see over here, this is actually a little switch, okay? I don't know if you can see that, it moves. So what I wanted to do was activate this to make sure that I wasn't going to wire it up wrong. So those two like that, try and demonstrate it for you. You can see that, open, closed. So I've got the relay working, but it's just good to pay attention to what you're doing, guys, because I could have gone ahead and wired this up the way I've wired up every other relay I've ever touched, and it wouldn't have worked, and I wouldn't have known why, and I probably would have blown a fuse or melted something. But instead I was paying attention, had a look, figured it out, and all I gotta do is slap that back on and chuck this in the car. So yeah, a little curly one for you. Alright guys, so just so you know, this isn't permanent. This is just so that we can test the fuel system and have a bit more of a permanent solution than just connecting the pump straight to the battery. So I've wired up a relay the way that it will be wired up in the car, with the exception of the grounds that are going down to the alternator strap there and the trigger wire which will end up inside the car. So all we need to do to get this to work is connect the power to the battery just here, and then this one's our trigger, so this just has to go straight to the battery. And we should hear the pump come on pretty much immediately. So 1, 2, 3, here we go. And that's it guys, pump's working. Our, what do we call it? Our regulator there is deadheaded, so basically at the moment we're going to have just a circulating fuel system. So what I want to do next is check that spring in the regulator, make sure that we've got the lightest one in there possible, and then we'll fit our gauge, we'll put some fuel in the tank, and we'll set it all up. So it's at about 7 psi, something like that, around about there. And then we're going to do a full running test with fuel, make sure that we've got a circulation system going on here. Okay, so I pulled the box out that the fuel pressure regulator came in, and I pulled out the 2 springs that are remaining in the box, and we've got a really heavy spring here, and that says 45 to 70 psi, so that's way too heavy duty for us. And we have this other one here, which is a very light duty spring by the looks of it, and it says 3 to 20 psi, so that will be the one that we need. So I'm assuming the one that's in there is somewhere between this one and that one. Nevertheless, we need to remove it because it's not going to work for us. So we'll pull that apart now, we'll get that spring out, we'll replace it with this one, and then we'll fit our fuel pressure gauge. Because now we're ready to actually get this thing doing some running checks. So we need this on there, make sure everything's at the right pressure, make sure this all works without any leaks, make sure everything's returning the way it should, and we'll get this thing connected up to the engine. I'm excited. Alright, so I'm happy I did that because that spring is a whopper. That's almost as big as that really heavy duty one that was in the box. So we'll chuck this one in now, we'll bolt it back down and do some checks. Alright, I'm trying not to make this a lesson, but there is something I need to show you guys, so just check this out. So what you'll notice if you pull one of these apart is this is your cup here that retains your spring, and inside there you'll have this bolt. This is your adjuster bolt. This is how you get your fine tuning for your pressure. And you've got your spring, which we've already gone through, but you have this cup. It's a seat for the spring. So this, you'll notice, one side it's convex, the other side's concave. Convex means this, concave means this. So the spring goes on the convex side, and then that all goes in here. Okay, and this, when you screw this down later on, puts pressure on this spring, shortening the spring, but increasing the pressure. So it takes more fuel pressure to open this regulator up. That's how that works. So we're going to set this on a very light setting, and we're just going to slowly incrementally turn it up to get the pressure that we want. But like I say, we're going to start slow, work our way up. Just thought I'd show you guys that before I put it back on. It's always good to know. Now that we've got this reassembled, we're going to take our adjuster bolt and we're going to push it down until we can feel contact on the spring, and then I'm going to give it a full turn. I don't know what pressure that's going to be, but we're about to find out. Alright, so I can feel that on the spring now. And we're going to go one full turn. So that's half, one. So I'm hoping that's somewhere around 6 psi, because all the way off is 3. Makes sense to be about, well, even 4 or 5, I don't know, but it'll be more than 3. So we'll lock that down there, we'll test it, and then if we have to adjust it up, we will. But let's get this pressure gauge fitted, and then we'll chuck some fuel in it again. Bit more. Alright, so we've got our temporary fuel system here connected up, ready to go. Check this out. Alright, now let's chuck some fuel in it, check for leaks. So far so good. That was one of the things I realised when I fitted this surge tank last time, is that because it's gravity fed, all the fuel was coming from the cell down into the surge tank, filling completely up. And that's how I noticed the fuel leak past the O-rings, is that because the surge tank was full to the top, it had nowhere else to go. It was trying to get up and out through the vent, but it was just the easiest way of getting out. So fuel, water, whatever you are talking about, that'll find the easiest path of resistance, and that's the way it'll find its way out. It's not going to bother going all the way up the vent and back into the cell if you can just go past one of your O-rings or something and get out. So I'm happy to see that. Now let's turn the pump on and see what pressure we've got. All right, we're leaking immediately. So our leak's coming from this fitting here, and I'm interested by that because I opted out using Teflon thread or Teflon tape or sealant or anything because it's a tapered thread. So just right now I'm deciding whether I tighten it up more or whether I take it out and put some thread tape on it. I think I'll put some thread tape on it because I don't want to break this. Alright, the fuel system's working, we've got pressure, but the gauge doesn't work on the fuel pressure regulator. So I'm not really sure what's going on there, but I'm going to have to worry about that another day because I've run out of time and I don't really have any way of fixing it this week anyway. So I hope you liked it. I know it's a bit of a going back over old stuff video, but sometimes this is the way it goes with cars. And when I noticed that leak, I just wanted to be transparent with everyone and show you what can happen. So we've gone through and we've remedied all of our other issues. This is all ready to go now, bar our fuel hose for the carby. So we can't really go any further this week anyway. But I think a lot of this stuff, as basic as it is, not everyone out there knows. And I hope that somebody took something from it. So I hope you liked it. If you did, drop a like, comment and subscribe if you haven't already. And come back next week and we'll be driving this thing, I promise you. This thing is going to drive out of this shed in 1 week's time. I'll see you then.